Hey there, Think Twice fans. We are back again with another edition of Basement FNM, which is where some of the friends of the podcast come over to my house and we play Magic in my basement. So it's kind of like FNM. Why we called it Basement FNM. You get it. All right. So, jumping into the first match we played, you will find me strangely on the left side of your screen. If you're used to watching the channel, this will be weird for you. I don't think I've ever appeared on the left side of the screen. Don't freak out though, everybody. It is okay. I promise we will get through this together. Okay. I will be playing Golgari Yawgmoth with the new edition of Badger Mole Cub. So, really great card if you haven't heard yet. Really awesome. It does some cool things. And on the right side of your screen, you will see Elijah. First time ever appearing on the channel. He is playing Esper Stoneforge Mystic. So, we'll see what happens here in this matchup. We're chatting a bit. We might do this from time to time. If you didn't watch the last Basement FNM video, sorry. One, go back and watch that. But sorry that there will be times where we get distracted and pause playing, either because if you can't tell, there is another match of Magic going on immediately next to us, just off camera. And so, as friends are wont to do, we talk and we get distracted. We tell stories, or sometimes we ask questions about how rules work, or all those types of things. But I promise we will get to the Magic. You will see it, it will happen, and it'll be cool. There you go. Right? All right. So, shuffling, shuffling, shuffling. Right? While we're getting ready for past us to get to this match, I do just want to say that, like, this is some of my favorite Magic to play when I get to just sit down. I don't need stakes on the line or anything like that. I don't need to be playing for prizes or whatever. Just being able to sit down, hang out with some friends, play Magic is one of the best times I think you can have. Playing this game, we all like to try to play as best as we can just because that's who we are, how we like to play. So we're not trying to be sloppy or anything. But this is just about seeing how it goes, how you enjoy yourself. Okay, Alan, stop shuffling. This is the thing that happens to me. I get lost in the shuffle, literally lost in the shuffle. I will shuffle and just not do things. Here we are. Here's the roll. You'll see it. All right. I don't remember who goes first. We called odd evens, and I don't remember who called what. We'll find out very quickly. So, all right, we're looking at hands. Elijah's got some blue cards. I see a Jace the Mind Sculptor. I see a Counter Spell. I think that's a Brain Surge. Well, it looks like I was on the play, so I'll shock in an Overgrown Tomb. We will see a Green Sun Zenith. 4x is 0. What could I possibly be getting? What in the world could be the get? It will be Dryad Arbor. It's the only get. It's the only thing. And then I pass the turn, just shortcutting here while I search. Elijah's going to take his turn. So it's draw, plays an Arid Mesa, passes back to me, and I'm still trying to find my card. So, whoopsie. All right. So Elijah's going to be playing a much slower deck. This isn't like a hammer or anything. It is kind of like a controlling shell with Stoneforge and some Stoneforge targets, to be able to go get as the finisher. So he's just going to be trying to control the game. I'm going to be trying to set up all my pieces, force through things through the interaction, and find some value and often some combos to win. So with a Spy Master's Vault, I have access to 3 mana on turn 2. Goal 1 completed. Accelerate mana. It is a great thing to do in Yawgmoth. You want to put a lot of permanents and stuff on the board. So we're working on it. We're trying to get there. I think we have a rules question happening at the other table. So that's what was going on there. All right, looks like I'm going to go for the Badger Mole Cub. So this is an interesting line I've thought about is when you have a mana creature um, and the Badger Mole Cub, it is better to tap your lands to earthbend onto a tapped land, because then even if somebody has a response to the earthbend target to that triggered ability, you can still float 2 mana with your mana creature instead of uh instead of trying to hope that the land you earthbend onto will be able to tap for the 2 mana. So unless I needed the black mana, I think this is the right way to do it. I followed up with a Malevolent Rumble. I believe I grabbed a Dredger's Insight, I thought I saw. I don't know, I was too lost in my own head. Elijah is going to fetch a Meticulous Archive on end step, so. But this is the power of Badger Mole Cub. I am set up, if the Badger Mole Cub survives until my next turn, I will set up, if I have a land drop, to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana on turn 3. That's Tron mana. That's the same amount of mana as Tron. Badger Mole Cub, confirmed good card. I believe we remember seeing a counterspell in Elijah's hand in the opener. So very likely that something I play might not make it through here. I lead on a Dredger's Insight cast just off of the Dryad Arbor. We're seeing another Badger Mole Cub, couple of lands, and a Yawgmoth as my options to take. I believe there's at least one more land in my hand. It is a second Spymaster's Vault. I'm thinking. Lots of decisions to make, and lots of decisions you have to make in Yawgmoth where you're planning ahead and you're trying to think like, okay, if I grab this and I do that and then this and that, then I get to do a thing or something along those lines. And so it really does make you, have to consider lots of options about what do you take, what leads into what means all of these other things. So, definitely complex decision making having to go on. I'm trying to see what else I've got in my hand. Looks like Soul Cauldron, Green Sun Zenith, a Walking Ballista, and that Spymaster's Vault. So I take the Yawgmoth. I'll gain a life from the Dredger's Insight because a creature left my graveyard. Looks like 2 mana using the Spawn and the Spymaster's Vault to cast the Agatha's Soul Cauldron. And Elijah is going to pitch cast a Force of Negation to stop that Soul Cauldron from coming down. I'm just reading this card. This is a Cryptic Coat. And I was like, wait, what does that thing do? So it is an equipment, 3 mana. It creates a 2/2 cloaked creature. Cloaks, I think that's what it's called. So looks like I'm going to go for a 1/1 Walking Ballista as my next play. Cast it just off of the Overgrown Tomb that it was earthbent onto. That does resolve, and swing for 2 from the Badger Mole Cub. I'll play that second Spymaster's Vault, and I'll pass. Noticeably, I have 2 green cards left in my hand, so didn't have a ton. Elijah will fetch a second Meticulous Archive. No, I think we were discussing the functionality of the app, that if you tap directly in the center on this app, life total app that I use, you can just type in a life total. Versus if you hit slightly left or slightly right, you'll just go up or down one. Elijah's going to surveil a Cauldron Complete into the yard there. Third land, it is an arid mesa. And looks like pass, maybe? Maybe? Can't tell. Looked like I was about to untap. Maybe I was just adjusting. I was just thinking he is going to fetch. Grabs a basic plains. And Harbinger of the Seas. This is of the Seas comes in. So all non-basic lands are islands. This is where the Badgermole Cub comes in very handy, because even if my creature lands are islands, they still tap for an additional green mana when they are tapped for mana. So they will now tap for a green and a blue. So let's see. 2 mana from Dryad Arbor. And adding in 2 mana from Spymaster's Vaults. Add a counter to the Walking Ballista. Then deal 2 damage with the Ballista to the Harbinger of the Seas to deal with that pesky land problem. We're going to make 2 green mana, cast a Yawgmoth, Delighted Halfling, swing in for 2 with the Badgermole Cub, and pass back. It's like Prismatic Ending, getting rid of the Halfling. Maybe Elijah is concerned, since he has that counterspell in hand, about me being able to cast, say, something like a Yawgmoth, a legendary spell, and make it uncounterable. He wants to be able to counter those things. Looks like I picked up a land for the turn. Still have that Green Sun Zenith in hand, thinking about what options I might have. As always, you will be able to find my deck list in the description of this video, just in case you're interested in seeing what I was running with this Yawgmoth build here in the video on this day. Looks like Green Sun for X's 2. And that will be countered. We'll never know what I was planning on getting. And an attack for 4 is the follow-up. Sometimes just the old little guy's beatdown plan gets the job done. Or at least can. I don't know, we're still 9 life points away. But making progress on that life total. Out of cards, I am out of cards. Elijah looks like he has a decent grip. He's going to go for a Brain Surge. This is draw 4, put 2 back on top. So we see a Teferi, maybe another Prismatic Ending, at least 1 land in there. Can't necessarily tell what all the cards were and which ones were already in hand and which ones weren't. Looks like maybe a Teferi and a Counterspell going back. Oh, switched, kept the Teferi, put something else back instead. Didn't get a good look at it. Followed up with a Flooded Strand, so those cards will be disappearing. Maybe it looks like Elijah is maybe considering fetching now and using that Prismatic Ending. Probably hitting the Yawgmoth, it looks like. Yep, Yawgmoth down. Prismatically ended. And then I will fetch on end step. Probably going to grab a Surveil land. See if I can set the top card of my library to be something sweet. Let's see, we're an Agatha's Soul Cauldron away from having a few creatures act as walking ballistas. not too much else going on. Would need a couple of pieces in order to have a combo win here. But a Soul Cauldron for a Ballista might make it close to lethal, because I could put counters on some things and then they can attack and do all kinds of, Soul Cauldron Ballista shenanigans. Can't quite tell what I'm looking at there. We'll see in a second, because I did decide to keep it on top and draw it. Green Sun Zenith X's 2. For some reason, I almost tried to grab Elijah's deck and start searching it. I couldn't tell you why. We were making a joke about it, because I'm like, I don't know why I did that. I grab a second Badger Mole Cub. This time I will Earthbend onto the Underground Mortuary. Earthbending onto your Surveil land, I think, is by far the best target, because if it ever gets killed in any way, which is one of the things that is amazing about Earthbend, is that it doesn't really matter what happens to it. If it would die or exile, the land just comes back tapped. Well, the Underground Mortuary would enter tapped anyway, and then you get the Surveil again for free. It's great. So anytime I can, I try to Earthbend onto my Underground Mortuary, because you can't really deal with the creature effectively. Like, yeah, you could bounce it, but then I just get to replay it, and that's probably the best way to deal with it. So after all of that, an attack for a few, I think 3, Elijah at 4, he says, yeah, I don't have an answer there. So that is game 1. All right, we're picking up hands here for game 2. If you didn't watch the last set of base and FNM, I'm just skipping through sideboarding. There's not a lot of fun to talk about. So Elijah will be on the play this time. Looks like we have both kept. Elijah leads once again on Fetch Land Pass. I will also be fetching, probably shortcutting and grabbing an Overgrown Tomb, casting a Delighted Halfling, and then pass. Elijah will Surveil. All right. Prismatic Ending on the way for that halfling, followed up with second land and a pass. All right, we'll see what I get up to on this second turn. Spymaster's Vault into Dredger's Insight. Looks like Elijah's got a Subtlety, a Jace, a Counterspell. Now see, I've uncovered 3 different walking ballistas already. One's in the hand, 2 are just unveiled by that Dredger's Insight. I believe I took another land out of that. Yeah, it looks like a Verdant Catacombs. So rather modest turn 2 compared to, say, last game. Second Meticulous Archive coming this way for Elijah. Decides to keep on top. All right. There's a Wrath of the Skies we're seeing there. Can't tell what the very last card is. Just a tapped Hallowed Fountain and a pass. Draw go. All right. Surveying my options, thinking about things. I think I made a joke about Elijah conspicuously has Counterspell mana open. He's like, oh, what do you mean? You noticed that? So, just some friendly banter. And we will start with a 1/1 Walking Ballista. See if that's good enough to get the Counterspell. It is good enough to get the Counterspell. Often, as a Yawgmoth player, your graveyard is where you want the Walking Ballista anyway, so you feel fine for that. And we see a Jace the Mind Sculptor hit the battlefield, a Brainstorm incoming, so he's using the 0 ability. He will stay at 3 loyalty. Deciding 2 cards to put back on top of his library is Elijah. Already made his land drop for the turn, so these cards will be staying there. So sometimes you just want to protect something. Maybe you're going to get rid of 1 later on. I'm going to go fetching at the end step. Now I've got to find a way to deal with this powerful, albeit not often seen these days, Planeswalker, Jace the Mind Sculptor. uh, uh, Drew, those of you who are familiar with the channel, you know Drew, was having trouble opening that jar of chip dip there. And so Elijah's like, oh, I got this. And then he made a joke that he's like, oh, I got it, but I think I had to lean backwards out of the camera, so now nobody knows. And so it looks like I'm weak. So just so everybody knows, Elijah did open the jar. Give him his due. Looks like I'm Badger Mole cubbing here, putting a couple of threats down on the battlefield, expanding the mana I have access to, all kinds of good stuff here. Looks like we're going to follow up with a Soul Cauldron. 3 Walking Ballistas as options to take there, so probably decent-ish. We're going to start with that Ballista, probably putting a counter on the Badger Mole Cub. We have to decide from here. I think I'm contemplating, do I just want to put 2 damage on the Jace right now? Did gain a life from the Ballista leaving. The nice thing about that Ballista ability is you can just kind of respond as you want to. It means that Elijah can't bounce something with the Jace -1 unless he wants to lose the Jace. So it at least takes away one of his options for something to do. So we see a Stoneforge Mystic, a Wrath of the Skies, a Counterspell, a Subtlety, and we're going to Fate Seal. We see a Wastewood Verge on top. He decides, Elijah says, yep, that can stay. Luckily for me, I do have a fetch land in play, so I can shift the top card of that library there, so that Jace is not sealing my fate. Wrath of the Skies, X equals... So it's X equals 3. I believe he's only going to spend 2 energy, so he'll bank an energy here. So I'm going to throw 2 damage at the Jace. This is where that cool interaction with the Surveil lands comes in. So my Surveil land Earthbent creature became a 0/0, so it died. So I can say, not that card. And then all of this stuff goes. I need to make sure I put that Walking Ballista into exile because it was exiled with the Soul Cauldron. It looks like, oh, there we go, I remembered it. But all of those things that I had put on the battlefield are now gone. Oh no, never mind. It was a land when it entered. So, never mind. I thought for a second, like, oh, maybe I should have gained a life when the Surveil land returned, but it ceased to be a creature by the time it left the graveyard, so... Oh, this is a funny thing. I am fetching the Dryad Arbor. Elijah didn't have an energy token, and I was like, oh, I've got one somewhere. He just pulled up a picture of the energy token on his phone, and that is his energy token. So there we go. The most high-tech energy token you have ever seen. Right here, folks. The things you only get on Think Twice, MTG. Looks like a Soul Cauldron is the next find. I also have another fetch land. We're just grabbing a forest here. Looks like that Skyfisher Spider is going to be Subtlety to decide to put it back on top. Looks like maybe an Otawara and a Stoneforge Mystic in Elijah's hand. He's going to use that Jace to say, no thank you, Skyfisher Spider. You can go to the bottom of the library. Looks like double Cauldron in my hand, maybe? And an old favorite, Batter Skull, searched up with that Stoneforge. A Batter Skull into the hand. Can be deployed on a later turn. And one of those two Soul Cauldrons is getting played. I'm making sure here to leave up the Spymaster's Vault just in case something gets killed. I could then maybe connive. With only one creature in play, it's not as good, but, you know, is what it is. That other game is distracting us again. So here I do something. I cast one Soul Cauldron, put a counter on the Dryad Arbor. I'm going to cast a second Soul Cauldron. I have yet another Walking Ballista in the graveyard, so I can put another counter on the Dryad Arbor. So now it's a 3/3. So it can attack through the Stoneforge Mystic, and if it hits Jace, it'll deal 3 damage, move Jace to 1 loyalty, and then you can remove a counter and kill it. So it is a forced block here if Elijah wants to keep his Jace around. So sorry, I've started sniffling in the past couple of minutes. I'm sitting in my basement and it's kind of cold because it's winter. Well, almost. It's technically still fall. We have another, 8 days until the official start of winter, but we've been mired in snow here in Michigan for weeks. So that's fun. And my basement is just cold this morning, and the fireplace has not heated it up over on this end of the basement yet. So I apologize for that. I was just surveying his options. He's not activated, or maybe he did. Oh, he's brainstorming. Yep. So he activated the Jace, brainstormed. All right, decides to shock in the steam vents. And looks like we're going to have a dress down come down. Take away creature abilities. I'm deciding if I want to respond to that. This main phase play implies that there is going to be a some way to deal with the creature that I have. So he's trying to make it so I can't Walking Ballista. So I do it in response just in case. Draws a card off the dress down. And this must have been in my end step. So the dress down will survive through my turn. Dryad Arbor is going to attack the Jace. And it is going to get Odawara'd. I didn't remember if Odawara said non-land permanent or if it named certain types. It names certain types, so Dryad Arbor is able to be bounced. Got to watch out for that template. And some things say non-land permanent, in which case you cannot target a Dryad Arbor. Odawara just says, I believe it's creature, artifact, or enchantment. I will replay the Dryad Arbor as my land for the turn, play out a Delighted Halfling. I'm contemplating what, using the Soul Causar now. What do I want to hit? We're going to hit that Stoneforge. Now I can put all those sweet artifacts in my deck into play without having to cast them with that Stoneforge Mystic ability. More importantly, the creature means that my creatures have Walking Ballista ability once again. Or at least that Dryad Arbor does. I cannot tell what that card that was drawn was. I'm not familiar with enough with the art to know. So we'll find out here in a minute. Fate Seal. See a forest. Forest stays on top. And Batterskull comes in. Batterskull creates a Germ token, a 0/0, and I believe it gives +4/+4 Vigilance lifelink, I think. Batterskull also has an ability you can pay some amount of mana, I believe it's 3, to return the Batterskull to your hand so you can recast it. So even if the Germ token does get killed, you can just bring the Batterskull back, replay it, make a new Germ token. It has long been the classic Stoneforge Mystic pair, at least in Modern, because it means you don't have to have another creature in order for your equipment to function. It just makes itself. As we've seen all the iterations of whether it's Living Weapon or I don't remember all the different names, but the equipments that create something for them to attach to have clearly been the best ones. Looks like Batterskull is going to block the Halfling. Target the Subtlety here. I'm just going to put another counter on the Dryad Arbor. I'm going to connive with the Spymaster Vault. So a creature has died, so I'm going to draw one, discard one. If I discard a non-land, then my Dryad Arbor would get another +1/+1 counter. I'm probably just going to discard that forest. Then we're going to shoot down the Jace, finally take that thing off the battlefield. It has taken turns and turns, has been my sole focus so far this game, so I can move to the next step. Follow up with the Verdant Catacombs and pass the turn back. Jace down, Batterskull still remaining. Looks like I did pick up a Fatal Push, though, off that Connive, which is good to deal with the Germ token. I am deciding to do that. Looks like now before I pass turn. Now I'll pass the turn. Do it when Elijah was mostly tapped out of mana, because I have seen things like Counterspell and whatnot. Flooded Strand is the land. Oh, is that a Containment Priest? It's a Containment Priest. And Elijah's going to pass back. I think I'm making sure I have all of the costs and effects of Batterskull down correctly so I can think about how I want to use my plays. I want to bounce it at some point, or try to destroy it so he's forced to bounce it, so we can navigate our way through there. I believe I get an overgrown tomb again. Had to have the energy token back. Dryad Arbor is just going to get into the red zone there. We'll exile a halfling, make it a 3-power Dryad Arbor. Looks like maybe I drew that Skyfisher spider that got fate sealed to the bottom after the shuffle. So Batterskull returns now. And then a fetch of a Thundering Falls. Batterskull looks like it's going to be getting redeployed here. The Germ returns. I'm going to add a counter to the Dryad Arbor with Walking Ballista's second ability. And is that Path to Exile? Is that what it is? So a couple damage there. Dryad Arbor is going to be gone from the game. I go get a basic land tapped. I'll shuffle about 4,000 times. That's what I do. All right. So I draw a Green Sun Zenith here. So despite the fact that I play Skyfisher Spider in my deck and have many different times, this is the first time I've ever actually tried to resolve it. I totally forgot that it says you have to sacrifice a creature. And Elijah's like, wait, don't you have to sacrifice something? I'm like, I do? And he's like, oh yeah, it says it right here. So he makes a very upstanding citizen play and says like, oh, you can like change if you want because I have a Green Sun Zenith in my hand. So I'm like, oh, I should have done this. He's like, yeah, do it in that order. So once again, we have nothing on the line here. So for the sake of, learning and doing that sort of stuff, I'd say, I'd go play a Green Sun Zenith first. And this is all because Elijah said, yeah, do it the other way. So this is the way I should have done the play if I remembered how my own cards worked. So very nice of my opponent to allow that misplay to be rewound slightly. So I use Green Sun Zenith to go get the Young Wolf. Then I play the Skyfisher Spider. The Skyfisher Spider sacrifices the Yawgmoth. The Yawgmoth returns with Undying, and then the Skyfisher Spider destroys the non-land permanent. That would be the Batterskull. So that threat is now dealt with as well. Much of this game has been trying to find ways to fight through various obstacles that Elijah's put in my way. The first was the Jason the Mind Sculptor, then the Batterskull. I don't know it yet, but we caught a glimpse of Containment Priest in Elijah's hand. And he's realizing that if he hadn't used the Path to Exile on the Dryad Arbor, he could have really put this turn of mine to shame, because none of it could have happened, because the Yawgmoth just wouldn't have done its thing, because it was Green Sun Zenith, and then I wouldn't have been able to use the Skyfish Spider Story of the Batterskull, and he would have multiple things on the battlefield, and I would have none of them. Looks like we're going to add a Badger Mole Cub underneath that Soul Cauldron, getting very stacked. The soup is being made. Elijah drew a card passed. So now I've got Walking Ballista, Stoneforge, Mystic, Delighted Halflingable guys on the field here. So this is an attack for 4/6. We're going to make it that number that comes after 6, Siete, if you will, with the Walking Ballista, add an extra counter to the Yawgmoth. Then the Containment Priest is going to come in, and I realize how much of a bullet I dodged, because Elijah only had 1 mana open last turn. Thinking about it now, I maybe should have kept this Misty Rainforest in my hand as something to discard if I'm able to connive at some point. Just because I have plenty of lands in play. I don't think I have another Underground Mortuary I can go find. So I'm not able to surveil, so I don't think it's necessarily the best. Elijah is going to kick a Consult the Star Chart, so he's going to look at 7 cards, and he's going to be able to put 2 of them into his hand. That is the same effect as Dig Through Time, if you remember. We're just making sure everything is all set and straight, answering any questions about the board state that your opponent has. That is all free and upfront information. As Elijah was making this decision of which cards to keep, he was realizing, I think, that maybe compared with something else he has in hand, or something that it actually would have been better to not kick the Consult the Star Charts. Which is interesting, because you normally think like, well, yeah, I'd rather put 2 cards into my hand, but having the 2 extra mana might have been important. He might have only needed to find 1 card here. For instance, a Wrath of the Skies would have worked. So if he had had 2 more mana, he would have had 5 mana remaining. He could Wrath of the Sky for X is 3, plus the 1 energy he currently has on his high-tech energy token, and wiped away my board, forcing me to rebuild from nothing in hand. But he doesn't have enough mana to do that, and so he's contemplating trying to figure out what he might be able to do. I'm very close to representing lethal, even through a blocker here with all the ballista stuff that you can do. As we were kind of talking through that, he's like, oh, shoot, I think I should have only just cast it to look at 1 card. Look at 7, pick the one you might need, and then he'd have the ability to do some other things. We see a Prismatic Ending. I see a Counterspell. Not quite sure what the other ones are, but it looks like he passes the turn back. And I'm going to remove counters to kill the Containment Priest, I believe, is the idea here. So we're going to see a Snapcaster Mage come down, targeting, I believe, Path to Exile. Luckily, I have Graveyard Hate just fired up and ready to go. So the Path won't get cast. The Containment Priest will die. I'll go fetching. And I realize I have no fetchables. Another reason to not play that fetch land from my hand is I didn't have anything to go get with it. Something as you get later in games to start thinking about, especially if you're a deck like this Yawgmoth build that mills itself quite a bit. Sometimes you'll just run out of lands you can go find. So important to kind of keep track of that and keep track of what targets you still have to find which ones you don't. So lots of signs pointed to, hey, I should think. So now I'm going to connive one onto my Yawgmoth. So I'll draw one, discard it. It happens to be a non-land, so I get a counter. We're going to go to my turn. I didn't look at that card for very long. Energy token back online. I'm going to add a counter to the Yawgmoth. And then immediately kill the Snapcaster Mage. I believe I'm going to put the Snapcaster Mage underneath the Soul Cauldron, connive, and that gives me lethal. So that is going to wrap up that game there. I'm making sure to return my opponent's cards because that's a good thing to do. Don't take your other people's cards on accident or on purpose. Definitely don't do it on purpose, but you also don't want to do it on accident. Now we just enter the discussion phase, but that is a victory for Yawgmoth. Was able to fight through the interaction of the Esper Stoneforge deck. And we'll see you in match 2. Thanks for watching.